in an
Oh
Airbnb.
my gosh,
with
that's a story. You know, it's not great to be out and about and to be sick, let alone being sick while you're in a tent, in the rain, in the cold. And I felt my cough was just getting worse and worse and worse. I was gonna pass out. So I was like sitting there, like closing my eyes, being like, don't pass out, don't pass out. And then I opened my eyes, and I kid you not, the girl in front of me hit the deck and passed out. And I was like, whoa, I've got magical powers. What just happened?
and I will use them for good. Get to the point.
Okay. Well, it has to be like a 2-hour podcast, right? How much time do we have?
Hello and welcome back to the Poetry Vessel for our second podcast. Today I have the same guest as the last one, my wife, Rachael Hassall. Rachael, welcome.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
I'm happy to be here too.
Me too.
And we've, put our Christmas tree up because it's close to Christmas.
We did. Yeah, it was just Thanksgiving last week. So our Christmas tree, we just pulled it out of the garage, basically. I practically forced Nathan to set it up with me. But it makes me happy to look at it.
I don't know why you're saying that you forced me. I think I was the one begging and screaming and crying to put the Christmas tree up. I seriously, though, was like, can we wait until December? And we did. We did it on the 1st of December.
Yeah, I don't know if any other couples out there have this in their marriage about a discrepancy between when is the right time to start decorating for Christmas. I know some people, like, even in November are setting up for Christmas, but I like to give Thanksgiving its moment. Love Thanksgiving. We had a beautiful Thanksgiving with my family. There were some cars. We had a beautiful Thanksgiving with my family. We cooked all day. We made stuffing and creamy mushrooms. That sounds weird. Creamed mushrooms, mashed potatoes, turkey, all the good stuff, even though we didn't eat the turkey. So yeah,
we had gravy though.
Yes, we had gravy. We gave Thanksgiving its moment, but when December 1st rolled around, I was like, now it's time for Christmas.
It's time for the tree.
Time for Christmas.
Time to go hunting in the shed.
Go hunting in the shed for the plastic tree.
And we started, we were watching like, I guess, a film a day, 2 Christmas films, and then newer Christmas films, and I didn't like them.
Yeah, I think Nathan and I have gone, we've had a bit of a revelation. We originally were like, I don't know if this is a we. I'm using we loosely here. But we decided that we were going to watch Christmas movies and like pick out a new one every day, which has been interesting because so far, unfortunately, we've been watching a lot of really bad Christmas movies.
We haven't been curating very well. We're kind of at the whims of Netflix algorithms, and
yeah,
I don't know why I do that to myself. I feel like we've watched enough films that haven't been very good because we're like, that will do.
Yeah.
And then part of me, it's funny to kind of make fun of it. And I really don't think some of these films have the heart and soul in it from writer, director, or the actors. Like, it's just feels like they feel like cash grabs, and otherwise good actors and actresses are in them. They know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we picked a lot of movies that, like you said, have great actors and actresses that we both love. And there's so many Christmas movies that I do love, but we've been striking out. So if anybody has any good Christmas movie recommendations, feel free to leave them in the comments down below.
And newer ones, because we're familiar with the older ones. I'm thinking in the last 5 years, what are the good Christmas films?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're gonna watch things. I'm saving it for a little closer to Christmas, but the Love Actuallys and The Holiday and all of that kind of stuff.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Is that a Christmas movie?
Yeah.
Is that when people say Die Hard is a Christmas movie? I haven't seen Die Hard, by the way, but
I don't know if I have.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say though. this has come to the point where we've watched so many bad movies in a row on Netflix that Nathan and I were like, right, we're going to make a list of a bunch of good movies. Last night on my phone, we're just writing down all the good movies that we want to watch because we're tired of bad movies.
And some are rewatching, and some are ones that we've always wanted to watch. Some are ones that Rachel's watched, and some are ones that I have only watched.
Yeah. And this is not a movie podcast, but we do appreciate movies. Nathan took me to the movies last night for a little date. We went and saw Wicked, which was really fun.
I told you to keep that secret.
I'm sorry, I'm blowing your cover. All your friends are going to be like, what have you done?
It was quite good, so I liked it.
It was good.
Yeah, I was
I enjoyed
surprised.
it. Considering, I feel like maybe 6 years ago, if I had tried to take Nathan to go see like a musical movie, there would have been no way that I could keep you in that chair. But, so I'm proud of you.
But you just mentioned in passing that you wanted to watch it, and I was like, I could go to the cinema.
Yeah, that was pretty cute.
So, because it wasn't you suggesting it to me properly, like it was like a tiny little hint dropped. It's like I felt like I had the right level of control over this. Like, yeah, I'll do this for her, and then sitting there like, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, you were very cute. You surprised me with going to see the movie because I've been wanting to see it. I loved it growing up. I used to have the soundtrack on my iPod. So Nathan surprised me by taking me to the movies and Italian restaurant for dinner. So all the things I love.
Yeah, and that was, I guess, after a weekend we went to a poetry event out in Ventura.
Yeah, we've had a busy couple of months. I think the first podcast episode, obviously we were like in the midst of fire, power, shut off stuff, which ironically we're supposed to be getting more of tomorrow. We're supposed to get it said from like Thursday to Saturday that they might cut our power for.
Oh, I didn't even know it was that long. And
so
we might be getting another shut off, not necessarily another fire.
Fingers crossed, no more fires.
Yeah.
I mean, and part of
Not
shutting off the power is to help prevent that, right? So fingers crossed none of that happens, but it's supposed to be windy again, which means that they're going to be turning off the powers. So.
Yes.
At least this time, this podcast, we've got light. That's a big change from last time. Last time we had no electricity and no power. So this time the room is full of lights and Christmas lights, and we could plug stuff in, which is awesome.
But this one's...
makes you appreciate it.
That's true. But this one's more evening times. The last one we had like original light, like the sun. The great ball of fire.
The OG light.
Yeah. But we were very busy. But then I got unwell first. That put me out for a while. I was out for like 2 weeks before I could do anything. But then it took like another 4 or 5 days for the rest to heal. Like my lungs were... You heard me when I was like breathing out like there. It was like... And I was like, that doesn't sound good.
Like you were like whistling. Your lungs were whistling.
So you got the opportunity to cover for me hosting one of the poetry events in Malibu, which you did an excellent job. I loved that there was a video, and I was sad that I wasn't able to see you. But if I was able to see you, this is the paradox, then I would have been there and you wouldn't have been doing it.
Yeah, it wouldn't have happened, I guess.
So it's like the only way I was able to experience that would have been through video. It's like some weird like hyper reality that we're living in that I don't know.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know out there, well, I guess there's 2 things. So one, we have a video if anyone would like to go see this, but Nathan hosts events in Malibu that are poetry related. And because he was so sick, I filled in for him on one of the days. So I essentially, unofficially, was Poet Laureate for the day.
Yeah.
Which was pretty exciting. And I had the honor of interviewing Michael Mark, who's a fantastic poet. It was my first time doing something like that and trying to be Nathan for the day. So it was an interesting but nerve-wracking experience.
I want to be honest. I think you make an excellent me. Like you do.
If anyone should be you, maybe it should be me.
No, you do me better than me.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Yeah, That
Thank
sounds like a
you.
conversation to have with a therapist. You're
It
like,
really
wow, I'm
does.
healthy.
And, oh, I did have a second thing. The second thing was that we also put out a newer video type. We got a little experimental. And by the time this goes out, that video will be out. But it's all about Nathan talking about that experience of being sick, because you were really ill. You were not in a good way.
I'd completely lost my voice to the point where, like, it wasn't really coming out. So I was just going to say you got the best of both worlds, because you got to go and speak and, enjoy things from that perspective, and you didn't have to listen to me when you came home.
No, I love your voice.
But anyway, the video we were making.
Well, I guess before I go on to that, just to respond to that, I guess, I was so nervous. I don't know if anybody, like, some people out there are just natural public speakers and they can get up and they just do the thing and they don't feel nervous. I feel like I am not one of those people. I've had to work on that, which I think it's also something that has, like, happened as an adult. Like, when I was young, I could get up on stage and be in front of people and would be less bothered. But now, as an adult, it just makes me really nervous. So I had to, like, because I only had a few hours to prepare for that. So, because I think we talked at like 6 a.m. or something, like, looked at you and heard you and was like, you're way too sick to go. And obviously I was healthy. I was keeping my distance from you as much as I could. We'd already been talking a lot about Michael Mark leading up to this, thank God. And, like, I watched some interviews and things with Michael Mark. So at least I had that. But for me, it's a morning event. So there was only a couple hours between finding out I was going to be Poet Laureate for the day and being Poet Laureate for the day. So it was an exciting morning. And thank God we had Melanie from the city of Malibu was there helping out with the event, and she stepped up and helped film, which is huge because normally it's just me behind the camera at Caffeinated Verse and making sure everything's on. She did a way better job than I normally do. It was, like, so much smoother than how I film. So if Melanie sees this, thank you so much for doing that.
Big ups, Melanie.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
And yeah, you just did great. And nerves in public speaking, I just think, are completely normal. And for me, they're not as prominent because I've been doing it a while. They're always there. Like, I feel it. And I've noticed, I said this to you, especially if I read a poem in front of a new audience, which is a little bit different than public speaking because there's, like, it's like having a script. It's like you can look at it unless you memorize it, which I don't. But where I notice where things get emotional, I feel like my voice might have broken before. I consciously go, like, don't allow your voice to break here. And I, like, consciously intervene, which I couldn't do when I was more nervous because I'm so nervous. I'm not thinking about that. But now it's like something new's come into my head when I'm public speaking that's, like, more controlled and consciously controlled too. So
That's really cool because I feel like I feel the opposite, where if I feel like, well, I guess that's a good thing because you're telling yourself, like, don't do that here. But I feel like when I fixate on something, I end up doing it. So if I'm like, don't trip, I'll end up, like, tripping. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I relate to that. If I were to think that, like, 10 minutes before I was doing it, then similar experience. It's kind of like, as I'm reading the lines, I'm coming up to something and I notice in the moment my voice starts to, like I notice, like, it's more like a micro movement or something, and then I'm like, then it, like, the voice mode goes, no, control this.
Right. Okay.
And then it goes forward. So yeah, if I was doing it, like, way before and catastrophizing and, like, yeah, like you said, like, don't trip makes you trip. It was funny when we were at a poetry event the other day, one of the readers at the open mic, she got up and she said that the last time she had read there, she dropped her phone on the way to the mic. And then she said boldly, which I really loved, and she was like, I'm not going to drop it on the way back as well this time, because the last time she dropped it both times. And then she, like, strode back to her seat. And there's kind of that weird bit of tension where you're like, please don't drop it because you've made, like, a thing about it. But that was That was
Well,
cool.
I guess it's good. It gets everybody on side and rooting for you. And I think
Yeah.
at the event, like, we're so lucky for this poetry community that we're in. And I'm like only in this because of you. But everyone in it is so supportive. They knew I was nervous. And like so many people said really nice things, about how it went. So I hope everyone had fun. And then like Michael, Mark, and Lois were just so much fun in general.
Lois is Michael's wife, by the way.
Yes. And I think even he said it before we started, because I was like, oh, I'm so sorry that Nathan can't be here and all of these things. He's like, let's just have fun. And I was like, right, this is supposed to be fun. So we had fun.
We can all remind ourselves of that, right?
Yes.
Let's just have fun.
Let's just have fun.
Right now I'm having fun.
We're having fun. We're having fun. We're sipping tea. And we're like all cozy for the holidays. Nathan's in his green polo and I'm in my red sweater, so we're super Christmassy.
Hey, we've got stockings that are red and green as well, so...
Yep, we sure do. I forget whose is whose, but...
I feel like I should take red because I'm wearing green just to be confusing. Anyway, so a video that we've also just released after recording this, but it would have been released by the time this is out. We were making something different to what we had been doing before because we're trying to decide on the direction of what we want to do on YouTube. And from seeing it from Rachel's point of view, so Rachael does the directing, cinematography, editing, and most of the sound. I will listen a bit and have an opinion, but you do most of that. And then I'm doing like the writing, the script editing of what I'm writing, and then the acting to some degree, even though you're coming into it as well. But we wanted to find a way to capture essays and personal essays in a cinematic way, and to dramatize it through the film and through like the kind of voiceover and delivery. So I'm excited about that new direction, and it feels like the types of videos that we're going to be making moving forward alongside this podcast. Is there anything you want to say to like speak to that, and how you get the vision of what to do once I send you a script that I've written? Yeah.
I mean, to go way back, we were talking, we started this podcast talking about movies. But so in high school, I was in advanced film class at Malibu High. And I really fell in love with editing and making like even short movies. So doing all of this on YouTube is like, I think, a long-standing dream of mine. And I've been really enjoying what we've been making so far. And what I think Nathan and I have been having a lot of conversations about ways to visualize poetry, or ways to visualize poetic essays or prose, I suppose. I don't know if it would be considered prose.
Poetic essays is good. It's prose, but yeah, poetic essays written in prose.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
We've been talking about ways to visualize that in a way that reflects both of our styles. And so we tried something new with this video, and trying to be a little bit more purposeful in what we film. And for me, I'm trying to challenge myself to get better at filming, at editing, at sound, because I want our videos to be of the best quality that they can be. So that's another video that we'll put up here somewhere. Again, no need to abandon ship on this podcast right now. Feel free to click it at the end. We'll link it. But it's something that we're really excited about. And obviously we haven't posted it yet as of now. So we have no idea what people will think, what people will say, if they'll like it, if they won't like it.
Nothing's for everyone, but you'll enjoy the video most likely. So just go watch it.
And it's kind of more of a dramatization of your experience. I mean, you being sick, and also thinking about being in a period of time in your life where, like, from my perspective anyways, like you've achieved these things, you've done these things, but it's also, maybe we're all kind of in this state, but I think so many of us, even when you've done great things or you've done good things or you're happy with your achievements, we're always, I say we, but maybe I just think this, but like being happy about where you are now versus like where you want to be. And I often find myself in the place of, I want to be in this place, and when I'm in this place, I'll be happy. And I think this video goes into that a little bit, in a way.
Yeah, and there's even something I was saying on that in the video that I've even reflected on since recording it. But I say like, but I still want to attain more. And I'm also, you know, it's funny, I reflected afterwards, and I'm like, there's this construct and pressure to like always want something. I don't think that resolves itself ever. Like you always want something else or something more, and it's also about, as you were saying, like recognizing where you're at. I mean, it can also depend like what circumstance you're in. You might be in really dire circumstances where, you know, you don't necessarily want to sit there and be like, I appreciate where I am. Like, you know, maybe if you're addicted to drugs and, you know, don't have work and struggling for money and all these other things can be involved, it's probably not so easy to say like, oh, just be grateful. You are where you are. Like, just be happy with yourself. Like, there can be times where there's an urgency to it, but I think generally, like, no matter where you are, there's a yearning for more, and I think you'll find that from people right at the top of the even financial pyramid or whatever, that are still wanting to do something more than they are. So it's like, and this is, I see like a part of life, it's like how to cultivate more moments of like peace in where you are. So I just think it's funny, I was talking about like I still want to attain more, and I kind of like had this oomph behind it, but I'm like, yeah, but I also want to learn to like not do that as well.
Maybe that needs to be in the next one.
Yeah, it's like I'll correct myself, but it's the mix between the ambition and then the wanting to just feel all right.
I think you're touching on something that's really important. And like you're saying, so, you know, there's so many times and circumstances in life where maybe it's not the most helpful thing to be like, oh, you know, just be happy, just enjoy where you are, just like, because I think it can minimize where somebody is. But then there's also, and I'm just going to speak for myself and kind of, I guess, what I think I need sometimes is, I mean, we're so fortunate. We're so lucky. We're like, I was just talking about the poetry community and all these people that are in our lives. Like, we have in Thanksgiving and Christmas, and, you know, we have a tree and all of this stuff, and we have a roof over our heads, all of these different things. But it is important to catch yourself sometimes, I think. And because there is a natural desire to always want more. And, you know, people always say money, you know, doesn't buy you happiness or all of these different things. But I'm going on a bit of a tangent. But I think for me personally, it's good to try to find the balance in both. Like, yeah, sometimes I do want to push myself and have more and be ambitious in a type of way. Like, okay, I've got one life on this planet. Let me go for it. And then sometimes I need to sit back and be grateful and be thankful for things. And I mean, that's what is really good about this time of year, and it almost being a new year, is taking that time to be reflective of how the last year went, things that are good in your life, things that maybe need to change, or things that you need to change within yourself, and that peace, that inner peace.
I think you touched on something really interesting and bringing up like change when you're looking for I find like when I'm looking for something that's more peaceful, but that's like comes in moments, and that also can sometimes only come with real, genuine, deep like self-reckoning. And there's constantly times, maybe you find out in meditation, you read a book that's like particularly challenging, that like this worldview that I have, or that someone may have, it's like can turn upside down as a result of engaging with it. And it's like peace can be earned sometimes by it doesn't need to be naive. Sometimes you need to turn things upside down and realize things and deal with all this difficult stuff, emotional, spiritual, just in how you view the world, how you're relating to people in the world, what your core beliefs are. Like, they can completely shift. And I think peace can come as a process of doing that. It's like you're constantly like breaking to build back, breaking, build back, and kind of hopefully stronger to have a platform to fill that too. So it's hard to talk about this stuff, because I'm also aware, like, even when you're talking, it's like there's so many parts of your brain, body, that have competing interests and desires and wants. Even you literally have like a limbic system, a lizard brain, the mammalian brain, the neocortex, like human, like you've got all these competing things. And it's like whenever you say anything, there's constantly feels like, well, there's like opposites to that. Like sometimes you say all I need is peace, but then you want to go out and dance and listen to music and do, or have loud conversation and do things that are antithetical to peace. And then other times you want to be like silent. Sometimes silence is peaceful. Sometimes your brains go blah, 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 and
that's usually me
giving you too much. But it's funny. I'm just gonna say, like, if someone's like, what do you want? It's a hard question, because it's like, it's unanswerable, and that it will forever shift, even in the moment of saying something. When you say, I'm going to throw it back to you in a second. I was like, when you say something and then you go, no, not that, and you like negate it instantly. But sometimes that negation, I think this is like a Freudian idea, but like actually reinforces how true what you said was. Like, you're not always, but there's times where you push something down so hard as soon as it's come up, and you're like, oh, that was such a strong reaction for. Yeah, exactly. It's like, that was such a strong reaction for something that was apparently untrue.
Yeah.
Should we dig it back?
Oh, and I mean, like you said, this is hard to, this topic's hard to talk about for a variety of reasons. It's like, this is very obvious, but I don't know everything. I might not say everything right. So, and I think these are very big ideas, and that can be a lot of it. But yeah, Nathan has told me this before, but I like this phrase, that we contain multitudes.
So Walt Whitman.
Oh, is it Walt Whitman? Oh, okay. Well, Walt Whitman once said
I just don't want to take credit for Walt Whitman.
Well, smart guy. Apparently Walt Whitman.
I think he said, I contain multitudes, but
okay.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing.
I'm not sure either, so I'm
probably Walt Whitman said.
Yeah.
I contain multitudes, or I like to think about people containing multitudes, basically. That we're a variety of self-contradictions all the time. And we have identities of who we think we are sometimes. And like, I'm Rachael and I'm this person. This is what I do. And then sometimes we don't always fit into that identity. And then we call that out and we're saying, no, that I wasn't being myself then. And then that's a contradiction to your identity, but it is still you. So anyway, these are all really big ideas that I'm not smart enough or qualified enough to speak about, but I sure have an opinion here and there.
Well, luckily I share the lack of expertise, but I'm going to spout anyway.
We're having fun here, right?
Yeah, we're having fun. But you're right, and when you talk about the containing multitudes, you are just so many different things. And you're saying, when you say, and yeah, it's like, that wasn't me, you're like, well, it was. It just didn't fit this type of idealized version you have of yourself. When something's out of character, it's like, no, it's out of your expectation of yourself, and it was perfectly in character. We just don't like to admit that sometimes we do shitty things, and to take it as like that is a part of the multitude. To really like appreciate the idea of a multitude, it's like you're all over the place. The trick is to try and be as consistent as possible, to live by certain principles. However, you can have all these things in place. It can take one thing to completely throw you off. You might think you know who you are, but then takes security away from you. Take your house away from you. Then, things change. So it's like, I'm always aware when I'm having conversations, and I'm glad you said it, like, grateful we have a roof over our head. We have food in the fridge. And it's like, that also affects your personality. When you're like, oh, they're so nice. Or it can be easier to, not everyone that has this stuff is nice, but it can be easier to be nice when certain needs are met.
Yeah, of course. I mean, a lot of, and I like where this is going, but it's going an interesting way of like, I think my like original point was trying to get at like acknowledging the things that we're grateful for and thinking and being mindful of that, but also acknowledging, like, looking into 2025, like, where do I want to be in 2025? Where do I want us to be in 2025? So I know a lot of people like come up with goals and different things that they want to do in the new year. So obviously we're going to have Christmas first. We're going to focus on Christmas first, but my head is a bit there as well, of thinking about what the next year looks like, because I feel like the older you get, the faster years go. So you really want to make the most of them. But it's a duality there of like, how can I be happy with myself now and be content with myself now, but also continue to grow as a person, which I think is important too.
I think ideally a growth happens all the time in your personhood, but you don't know what that is going to be. And it's not just this la-di-da, everything's roses and the growth just happens. It's like you kind of grow as you encounter all these different challenges as you go along. So I agree about how I think about the way the next year will go, and wanting to carry out some of the ambitions and plans that we have. And even we've done it at the tail end of this year, but even starting the podcast and doing a different type of video on YouTube, it's like we've shifted and found the thing that we want to do more. And kind of what you were saying is like, this is like, it's a long conversation we've been having over the course of, I think even a couple of years. We were conceptualizing this before we did it, and to learn to synthesize our ideas. You're kind of talking about this before. It's like we sat down and were showing each other things that we like to watch and listen to, and what grips us most. Because what I'm always interested in creatively, and I think about this when I think about poetry, I think about your mind is a like alchemical laboratory. It is a synthesizer. Whatever you put in will synthesize and come out. And it's the same in collaborative projects, which this is. And it's like the best way to synthesize our ideas is to understand where the other person's coming from, so that we can best find what works. So what I really like and what I feel is unique in what we're doing is that we're taking different worlds that we like involving ourselves in online and finding a way to mesh them. And I know that to keep it relevant to growing in the new year, it's like that's going to find like full fruition in 2025.
That would be amazing. And so much of that is only possible by people out there, hopefully like you, if I'm talking to someone right now, listening and
Exactly
watching
like
and
you.
supporting. And so far, like, something that we wanted to do with this podcast as well is, you know, we're in our living room right now. We're not on a set. We're not in a soundproof room. You might hear cars going by from time to time. Part of the lighting on our faces is from our own Christmas tree, and we set all of this up. And, you know, all the equipment that we have so far, these mics, we've invested our own money into. And we're investing our time into learning how to use them properly, hopefully. But we want it to feel like you're, you know, coming into our home, coming into our living room. Please don't actually do that.
Welcome. Take your shoes off.
And sitting down, having some tea. Nathan made TikTok tea, which, do you want to explain what TikTok is? Because a lot of our American friends might not know what TikTok is, besides the sound a clock makes. And
it's also a very well-known app. But this existed before that app.
What in the world? Why didn't I register TikTok the brand?
Yeah. Though it's a rooibos tea, which I believe is South African. I'm not 100% sure where else it comes from, but the one we're drinking, I think, is South African. And it is one of the few teas alongside what we call English breakfast tea in England, but Irish breakfast tea in Ireland.
It's caffeine free though.
Yeah.
This tea.
It's caffeine free and it tastes nice with milk in it. Lots of teas don't. You don't put it in like certain herbal citrus teas, but
this is also wow. This is also Nathan's mom's favorite tea. So shout out to Sharon as well.
It is her favorite tea.
I think it's like, we have it in the evenings all the time, and it's very nice. So we encourage all of you out there to make yourself a cup of tea, or pour yourself a glass of wine, or drink that cup of coffee and sit back and enjoy these podcasts.
I advocate for the tea, just saying.
But going back to 2025, what are
Which is forward.
Oh, right. Wow. Going back to go forward to 2025, my brain is a bit slow because it is nearing the evening time.
What you said was perfect. I'm sorry.
Is there anything you're looking forward to next year? What are you looking forward to?
There's two things I know are happening. We're going to Tahoe, Lake Tahoe, for a week in Northern California, along with your parents. Mm-hmm. So that'll be fun. You're going to go skiing. I'm going to be bundled up and reading and having coffee and having a break.
Some hot cocoa in the lodge.
There's plenty of poetry events that I'll be hosting and taking part in, including the yearly summit in May. May 17th actually just got confirmed today. May 17th
Are you allowed
at 12
to say
p.m.
that? Oh boy.
Yeah, it's a public event. And we plan on going to England, and I would like to go back to Cosmic Void Festival, which is in London, which I loved when we went there the year before. It was last year, which is a black metal music festival, so I'm excited to hopefully get to go to that again, because it was really great, and hopefully you're well enough to come with me and not in an Airbnb.
My gosh, that's a story. Ugh. Okay. A lot of my friends will already know this, but we'll get into it. So, as Nathan is talking about, last year?
It was last year.
Feels like so much longer.
Wait, was it the year before?
No, I think it was last year.
But I'm confused because we've gone there multiple times. The one when we were... it wasn't when we were over.
Let me tell it. I know when it is. This was last year.
All right. You're in. You're up.
I've committed it to it being last year.
You've got the talking torch.
Okay. It was last year. And first we've gone a few times, which is where you're right. We've gone to when we've gone to visit. Nathan's parents are awesome. they've been really supportive about showing us around different parts of England. So we've gone to Bath together. We've gone to Cornwall, which I think is our favorite place to visit together. I love Cornwall so much, and specifically St. Ives. It is so beautiful. If you've never been there, it doesn't even, like, no offense to England, but it doesn't look like you're in England because it's just like the water is so blue. It looks like you're in the Bahamas or something.
People are surfing and...
Yeah, people are surfing. It's sunnier. You've got those dramatic cliffs. You've got all these like little like seaside artsy like villages. It's so cool. So if you ever get the opportunity and you're in England, don't just go to London. Make sure you go to some other places like Bath or Canterbury, where we met, or Cornwall. So anyways, to get on track, we went with Nathan's parents in their old VW bus. How old is Ben?
I think it's
Ben is the
65.
65?
I'm going to say it's 65, and then I'm going to say it's 75, I think. And then I'm going to say, yeah, it might be the 70s. That feels more right when I say it, but 60s was the first thing that came to my head.
Okay, well, Ben is adorable. Ben is blue.
We'll fact check. We'll ask my dad.
And Paul, Nathan's dad, has done a great job of redoing the interior. He's sewn all these curtains and things. If you know Nathan and I already, we also have an RV, which that we've done up on the inside.
Proper done up.
We're into the van life thing. So we've gone a few times with Nathan's parents to Cornwall, and we always have so much fun. The campgrounds in England are like on another level compared to American campgrounds. There's like nice showers and like grass turf.
They're very manicured.
Yeah.
The country's
There was like
smaller.
a swimming pool, like a nice swimming pool, and like a restaurant.
It's not the same as the camping in America. It's got less heart in that regard.
But
No
campgrounds
offense,
in America,
England.
like, I love camping. Don't get me wrong. Like, so much fun. Love. We have the most beautiful nature in America. But sometimes, like, those campground toilets and everything can be terrifying. In Cornwall, they're very nice.
Get to the point.
Okay.
Stop talking about toilets.
Okay.
You bloody toilet seat.
Well, it has to be like a 2-hour podcast, right? How much time do we have? So anyway, I started getting really sick while we were in Cornwall. And, you know, we're in a post-COVID world. It's not great to be out and about and to be sick, let alone being sick while you're in a tent, in the rain, in the cold.
Can I ask a very quick question?
Yeah.
Why do we say post-COVID when it still exists?
That is a bigger question.
We always just say,
than I'm
oh, when
prepared
it was
to answer.
COVID, it's like...
Yeah,
still,
COVID, so people
it
still
feels
get
like
COVID.
an era.
But it wasn't, you know, what I'm talking about is like, that is closer to like, you know, us all being in a global shutdown.
Yeah, no, I know.
Which we were, that's also a story for another time in terms of the
situation
our
we were in.
pandemic experience. But anyway, we were in Cornwall and I started to get really sick, but I was powering through. We were still like walking around and doing things. And I felt my cough was just getting worse and worse and worse. And I thought it was just a really bad cold or a really bad flu or something. COVID didn't even cross my mind, and it ended up not being COVID.
It's like blustering winds and rains and stuff out at these
and again,
campgrounds and in the town.
Sleeping in a tent and exerting myself. So I was sick for, I want to say maybe like a week or more with that. And then we came back home to Nathan's parents' house. And Nathan had these tickets for Cosmic Void. And by that point, I had started to feel better. I think because we were back in a house. It was a little bit warmer.
Ginger, lemon, and honey teas with turmeric.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I had started to feel a bit better. And Nathan had an extra ticket to this festival. So... and I don't know how much of this I should say because I don't know how much he knows, but I convinced Nathan. I was like, you gotta take me. I really want to go to this festival. Sorry, Alex and other people who may have wanted to go. I muscled my way in there and I was gonna go to this festival apparently.
Even though you could have still come to the Airbnb and done other things.
Yeah, this was just
this is in Camden in London. Like, there's stuff to do.
In retrospect, Alex, you should have gone. But
That's my brother.
but yeah, we ended up going, and I think the first day of the concert, we like,
It was the Friday evening.
again, had been feeling fine, had been feeling better. I was like, okay, I have like the residual like sniffles and a cough, but like I'm definitely past like the worst of this thing. It had been over a week, and I was sitting upstairs and like feeling like
Upstairs in a venue
yeah.
where there was...
So we're in the venue.
But even before we were there, we were like going quite fast to the venue because we felt like we were going to miss the bands.
You made me like speed walk up a hill.
And I was like, why aren't you sprinting?
And I'm like, like choking. But yeah, we're in the venue, and I was sitting there thinking, oh my God, like, and this was later in the night, but at a certain point that I was gonna pass out. So I was like sitting there, like closing my eyes, being like, don't pass out, don't pass out. Speaking of earlier, and like, don't trip, but like, don't pass out, don't pass out. And then I opened my eyes, and I kid you not, the girl in front of me hit the deck and passed out. And I was like, whoa, I've got magical powers. Like, what just happened?
And I will use them for good.
I was like, what have I done to this poor woman that I've transferred my passing out energy onto her?
This was also during the headliner.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to say that.
And I think I stuck it out most of that night. I think we left, or did we leave early? No, we saw the whole show, right?
Yeah, I think as soon as it finished, we up and outed.
Yeah, and I was like...
And you were like, oh, you can stay longer if you want. It's like...
And to go back to that girl, she was okay. We went to the bar immediately. We got her water. She was all right. So the lady was fine. But I spent the rest of that weekend in the Airbnb feeling so ill. And again, still thought maybe this is a bad flu. We had no thermometer, so I knew I had a fever, but I didn't know how high my fever was. And Nathan, you went to, I mean, obviously you bought these tickets. You were feeling fine. And no one else around me, by the way, was feeling sick at all through this whole time that I was sick.
I was having the best time of my life.
Which was also strange that it was just me feeling sick. But yeah, you went to the concert. Long story short, this is the longest story ever. We ended up going to... Yeah.
I just want to add, I was going, like, the way the festival set up, there was 3 venues all really close to each other. And it was like, as soon as one band ended somewhere, you could walk to another one, there'll be another. There was occasional schedule conflict between bands, but they were really good at, like, you know, you didn't have to really wait, you just went to the next venue. But between different bands, I was like deciding which ones I wanted, that I liked. It's like I would go to the pharmacy or go get you food, or like, so I was kind of like running back, like, I'm really sorry, like, I love you, are you okay? Like, I want to go see this band, like, are you okay? You're like, yeah, that's fine. So
yeah, Nathan
I was
didn't
like,
completely abandon me. I forget if you ordered me food or something. You definitely brought me back supplies. But I, like, didn't move. I feel like I was, like, in bed that whole weekend. But I was very insistent that you still go and you still enjoy yourself.
I like, people were like, were you just faking it? Because otherwise you would have had to listen to black metal for 3 days.
I mean, there might be some truth in that.
Moving forward.
To fast forward. Woke up on the last morning that we were at this Airbnb. Again, after feeling dreadful for, like, a few days. And Nathan, like, turned to me and looked at my face, and he was like, you've got something, like, on your forehead. And I looked in the mirror, and it was like I had the start of this, like, rash, basically, on my forehead. And I was like, well, that's not good. So we headed back to Nathan's parents' house. And during the course of that day, that rash spread and got worse on my forehead, all the way down my face, down my chest, on my torso, my back. And I don't know what compelled me at this point to be like, I'm probably fine. I don't know, like, when you're sick, I don't know if anybody else out there feels like this, but sometimes when I feel sick, I have that complex of, like, no one's gonna believe me that I'm actually sick, or maybe I'm just being, like, overdramatic, or, like, this is probably normal, right? Like, I'm just being a wuss. So I think
I share that. So.
I delay going to the doctor when I know I know later that I probably should. After that point, we're back at Nathan's house. I have this full body rash and my fever has spiked again. I think by that point we got a hold of a thermometer. And my temperature, I think I was around 102.
Yeah,
which, for a 30-year-old person isn't the best. And I think that night I was like, I felt horrible. I looked awful. That was probably the worst I've ever looked.
I felt so every time I looked at you, I was like, I feel so bad for you right now.
So horrible. Like puffy.
You're like, are you still going to love
rash.
me?
I was like, and I was like, if my fever comes back, because I think I took Tylenol and then it dropped. And I was like, if my fever comes back, then I need to go to the doctor. And sure enough, in the middle of the night, I woke up, took my temperature again, and it was 102 point something. I'm like, right, this is definitely time to go to the doctor, because I've probably had a fever for days and just didn't know it. And then now I've got this full body rash, and I've been Googling all my symptoms, and it doesn't look good. So Nathan took me to the hospital in England, and the doctors, originally, I was wearing a mask in the hospital. So I looked sort of normal from here up. I just kind of looked like I had bad acne or something on my forehead. And what they were like, why are you here? And pulled it down. They're like, oh, and
their faces oh shit.
And rushed me in because they thought, and some of you out there might already be thinking this, that it was meningitis, which obviously, that can kill you very quickly.
Very quickly.
So they came in, they showed me the little test you do for a rash like that, a meningitis rash, where I forget exactly. It's how it disappears when you press on it can determine if it's meningitis or not, as a quick test. Don't quote me on that, but
sounds right.
See a doctor.
Yeah.
If you're ever unsure.
This isn't medical advice.
This big disclaimer, this is by no means medical advice or what you should do in this situation. And long story short, the doctor diagnosed me that I had scarlet fever.
And she did it she looked at you for a second and went, oh, that's scarlet fever.
She looked at my tongue.
That was it.
Because I had strawberry tongue or whatever that you get.
Straight away. Which,
if anyone doesn't already know or hasn't read The Little House on the Prairie, is a Victorian children's disease. Usually adults do not get scarlet fever, so I must be very young at heart.
Yeah, and it explained why no one around you also got ill, because I was like, it must be flu or COVID, we're all going to get sick, and why we're all why is no one ill?
Nobody got sick.
Because adults don't get scarlet fever.
Americans just aren't used to this same old-timey diseases that they have in England.
It exists here too. It was just, it was having a spike in England, but the spike that I looked at, it's let's say at one point on the graph, it was all the way up here, that for a long time it's been here, the spike was here. So it was, not spiking to how it had used to be. And then she prescribed you antibiotics.
I had antibiotics, and I was okay within 24 hours, which was great.
Yeah, she was like, you'll be fine. Yeah. Very quickly, and you're like, that's
we were meant to fly home in a few days after that, so thank goodness it was okay, because scarlet fever is also something that can cause a lot of problems. If you let it go on too long, you can get, rheumatoid fever, and it can kill you. I mean, that's why, back in the day, it used to kill children and people all the time. I think going back to Little House on the Prairie, I think that's how, I forget what character, that was probably a big spoiler for some people, but one of the characters dies from scarlet fever. So thank God for modern medicine. But yeah, that's how I missed the concert with you and ended up getting a Victorian child's disease.
Great concert. Yeah, I'm glad you're okay.
I'm glad I'm okay too. That was freaky.
That was freaky.
Yeah.
And then they said it's not contagious in 24 hours and you can fly and it's fine, and everything was fine.
Yeah, and it was more than 24 hours like I had several days
like
before
4 or
we were on
5 days,
a
yeah.
plane. And obviously you're not supposed to be around kids because a lot of kids don't have that immunity, but a lot of adults already have the immunity, I guess. And then sometimes, again, I'm not a doctor. Google this, fact check me, please. But I believe it can develop from strep, like strep throat can turn into scarlet fever. But I'll have to fact check it, and if that's wrong, I'll cut that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Don't want to be spreading too much misinformation.
Yeah. So that was an eventful time in my life, and I appreciate you bearing with my long story there.
That was exciting to relive.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our feet are dangerously close to each other.
Oh, no.
Well, I'm glad you're okay. I felt really bad for you. I was like...
I felt bad for me, too.
And
I looked horrible.
Once it
and felt horrible.
became like a full-blown rash, like, it's probably time to
this
see a
is
doctor.
probably not good. So,
I've learned to maybe see a doctor earlier.
Learn from our mistake. There's a few things here. If you're an adult or a kid, like I don't know, if your kid has a fever for a while, probably not good. My cough was also horrendous. So, like, there were clues there that I was like, I am ill. Listen to your body when you're ill. Take the time to rest. Go to the doctor. You know, and again, I guess it ties back to your recent being sick video. Like, sometimes you need to rest. You don't have to power through. Take the sick day.
If you can. Ideally.
That's true.
That's another problem, and I don't want to get like deep into the societal issues that we have, but like not everyone can afford to take a sick day that
or
they don't
afford
get
to go to the doctor.
paid for.
Yeah.
Which is insane because you're not a machine. Your body needs... Even machines need fixing as well, so I guess whatever, but it's like your bodies need to like recuperate and heal, and you know, there shouldn't be a luxury to be able to do that, and there is something in that's a luxury, and that's...
Your health is your most important thing. So whenever I've been, like, I think that's the sickest that I've ever been. And you're so right that it is more nuanced than that, than like how I put it.
No, you're right to put it that way. It's like you should rest. Just sometimes you're not given the opportunity to do what your body literally needs. So.
And thank goodness in some ways that I was in... I mean, the NHS in England, like I don't think I was even charged at all for that visit, which was great.
They're probably still looking for you.
They probably are. I should worry next time I go to England.
You just have to pay for the prescription.
Yeah, probably. I don't remember.
It's a flat rate prescriptions there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not quite sure how to transition out of that.
As this is a poetry related podcast.
Poetry?
I feel like some earlier works of yours were written and inspired by more feverish states.
Yes.
Is it easy to write in that kind of state? Or what does that kind of state produce?
Sometimes it's a really great question. It's like, who's the poet? David Hassall, I think it was in his collection Fire Songs, said that he wrote each piece in like a feverish dream. And for me, sometimes you access something that's more akin to a dream because you're like woozy, right? You're like kind of like, even if you haven't taken any medicine, you feel like you've taken some type of medicine, like you almost like being drugged. Sometimes that gives like a gift of real like odd lucidity, but I think that happens in the higher fevers, like when the hallucinations can occur. This past one I had like a fever and this recent illness, and nothing was really coming to me, but there are times where there's a type, we call them gift poems, where I've had it where full poems will like write themselves in my head, and I can just like, it's almost like write them out.
I like that as gift poems, especially with Christmas coming. That's nice.
I like to say festive.
Oh.
So that was for you. I would say it's an Easter egg, but that's confusing.
And leave them under the tree.
Yeah, exactly. But they're like about sicknesses, so I probably shouldn't leave
Ooh, no.
So it can be really interesting to write in that state, but like usually it's like maybe I was more inclined to do that before smartphones existed. Because I'd be in bed without something to like distract me.
Yeah.
And it can produce interesting work. And some of the stuff, I mean, I've written like post-surgery, but you also bring into play like the idea of altered states and writing from altered states, because as we know, we're not always in day-to-day consciousness, which is almost akin to the ego consciousness, is what we're predominantly in right now, though I feel like more lanterned out than spotlit in the ego consciousness, because this conversation feels quite opening, so it's somewhat beyond that too, but our day-to-day consciousness. But then you have like, you have sleep, both dreamless and dreamed sleep. You can have lucid dreams. You can have, substances that change your state. You can get there with music, with meditation, with breathing techniques. There are all these different things where we have our consciousness altered, and sometimes even while writing the poem and being in that meditative state, it is I usually call it a trance state or a dream state that you're bringing into play and writing about. And a fever is often, or at least a higher fever, is an altered state. I mean, your state is altered physiologically. You're sweating, you're hot, you're cold, you're shivering, you're like delusional. Sometimes that's the best thing possible for creative
But don't seek out a fever in the search of a good poem.
Yeah, do your best not to do that. I don't think that's good. I mean, maybe someone goes to flu camp and brings their notepad, but again, not advocating for these things. So it's possible to write good or great poems ill. I found after being ill this time, I've started writing again strongly because I'm appreciating the health. It's like, oh, my lungs work. Take it for granted when you can take a full breath until all you can do is cough. Take the voice for granted until it, stops working. We were speaking about it a bit the other day about Heidegger, the German philosopher, talking about a hammer and how you only realize the tool as a kind of separate object to yourself when it stops working, because so many things we use are extensions of ourselves. Like we're using a microphone right now. I forget it's there. It's not, its function is playing exactly what I want it to do. But then if it stopped working or it just like flopped down, I would become aware of the microphone, not as a kind of extension of something I'm doing, just as like, a failing object. So if you had a hammer and it fell apart, it kind of ceases to be the hammer. That's just an extension of an action you want to take out. So that is, I guess, also true of the body. Like when your body is working in the way that you expect it to, you feel you're not always aware of it. You're not aware of your hands. You're not aware of your eyes and whatever. As soon as something hurts or stops working or whatever else, it's like your relationship to it changes. You're like, oh, I have an ankle because I can't walk on it, or whatever.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So in lungs, my lungs became something I was aware of because they were damaged, not doing too well. But
I'm glad you're feeling better now.
I'm glad you're feeling better from last summer. I know what you did last summer.
Yeah, and it was lying in bed.
Always in bed.
Well, I love talking about, and we'll probably have to talk about it another time, but I love talking about dream poetry as well. And like you said, with the altered states, because like dream poetry can also be a type of altered state. So
yeah, it is.
But yeah, I don't think we've ever talked about like fever poetry before, so
this is exclusive content in our marriage.
Yeah.
So
never before seen.
I want to really take issue with the word content. I used it ironically, but I want to make that clear.
Right.
I'm not a fan of like the term content
And why not?
creation. because it feels so not artistic, and it feels very like, I think of like people that are working in just like marketing, whatever they have in front of them because that's their job, are making content. But I'm like, if you think about art, like I wouldn't call poem content creation. So I feel the same with like video. It's like the podcast doesn't feel like making art in the same way. It feels more casual than that. But the other videos we're making, it's like, I feel like we're making art.
Oh.
Essays and poetry and videography and bringing all these things together. It's, you know, I think that's content creation, the term like devalues what you're doing. And I don't know where it started, but it just content doesn't resonate. That's how I just want to say. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's kind of...
I feel similar, but I also feel, and the perfect person to talk about a subject like this is someone that we hope to have on the podcast in the future, and I know you know who I'm thinking of.
Is it a content creator?
No. But this person is all about the etymology of words and how something adapts. So I feel like content is also one of those words where I would love to know what the etymology of content is and how we've kind of adapted it and corrupted it over time. We have a video from Ann Buxey who talks about this a little bit, or a short that talks about the corruption of certain words, and I think she's brilliant. But
she speaks about convenience.
Mm-hmm.
We'll leave you to see it on the video itself, but
yeah, and how convenience has changed over time, but what the original meaning is. So I feel like we should learn what content is, and you have content and content and all of these different things. So
yeah,
that would be.
And you have
interesting.
table of contents in books.
You sure do.
So it has contents.
Yeah. But yeah, speaking of content and feeling content, I feel very content and happy being on this podcast and making this with you. So this has been super fun to do.
I agree, and I'm happy that we've created this content together.
Yeah, and I hope if anyone is still watching, if you've made it this far, I hope, okay, if you've made it this far.
You've made it this far.
You should always make it this far.
Keep watching.
We should leave little clues at the end of this, and only the people that have listened to the whole thing will get the clue.
They'll get the juiciest secrets.
Yeah, and we should save our best, juiciest stories and secrets for the very end. They're so
juicy.
So, you know, write something juicy in the comments below if you've made it this far. But yeah, thank you for listening and for your support. We really, really appreciate it. It means so much to us. We've seen a lot of growth in this channel over the last year. We're almost, we're almost at 5,000 subscribers on this channel, which is pretty fantastic. Considering this time last year, we were hoping to get to 100.
We didn't either.
Yeah, we didn't even make it to 100.
We're at like 89 or something.
And so we've experienced a lot of growth in the last year, which is so amazing, and we couldn't be more thankful. So yeah, speaking of the holiday seasons and Thanksgiving and Christmas and everything, we're very grateful for all of you and really appreciate all the support. So thank you so much for listening and for watching.
Yeah, I want to echo all of those sentiments and appreciate you here listening to this and supporting what we're doing, and I can't wait to release all these new things we're going to have throughout the new year. So stay tuned, and for those of you who haven't already, though, I suspect if you're here you already have, but subscribe. It helps the channel, it keeps us motivated, and we'll make things that we know you'll enjoy and maybe even love.
And it's free.
And it's free.
Who doesn't love free things?
Who doesn't love free things? I've lost the ability to think for myself. I can only parrot what Rachael says. So,
ooh, that's a lot of power.
But yeah, stay tuned. We're going to do so many more of the videos like the one we were just talking about, the video essays with the cinematography and all of that beauty. So like, stay tuned for more beauty. Thank you very much. My name is Nathan Hassall, and this is the Poetry Vessel. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That'll do.